I've got no time for doubt, no room for delay. Every day I live, I'm walking in your way. The mission is clear.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Push Talk Show, our special Women's History Month celebration. We are on night 4. Can you believe it? 4, 4, 4. So that tells me that there's what, 5 more nights to go with some amazing women of God, of course, chosen daughters who are doing amazing things globally, locally. And guess what? They have all experienced their moment of push, and I those are like my favorite parts. Okay, I love what they're doing, yes, but it's that part where they push through and their greatness is just being unleashed all over the world. So I'm so grateful tonight to be with you all. Grateful, right? And before we go into and introduce our special guest for tonight, I wanted to just shout out to the winner, Monette Jasmine, who won. She is the winner of the Blind Fate book, right? That copy. She won. She was following Edith and the Push Talk Show, and she won. And so we want to celebrate you, Monette Jasmine. That's her Instagram name. And so we're so excited for her. All right. So we have other surprises and giveaways that is coming. So before Monday comes, you also will be able to win a prize. You just never know what it's going to be. All right. So without any further delay, I want to bring in our special guest for tonight, Miss Celebrity Vocal Petticoat Extraordinaire. Oh, and there's a little secret that I have to share with y'all during the show. So just stay. Go on ahead and share. Tell a friend to tell a friend that the Push Talk Show is on with your favorite push coach. Come on. And not only that, you're going to hear me might bust a tune tonight. Maybe. Maybe. Let's see. Now, here's our special guest. Welcome, welcome to the Push Talk Show, Ashaala
Thank you.
Shanae.
Thank you for
Oh,
having me. Hi, everybody.
oh my goodness. How are you doing on this fine Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I've learned to say that even in the ups, even in the downs, I'm still blessed. I had
Yes.
earlier. I had a walk with God. I normally walk about 3 miles a day, 3 to 5 miles, and
Uh-huh.
I walk and I talk with Him, and so I'm really blessed. How about yourself?
I'm feeling pretty excited, right? We were behind the scenes and I was kind of sharing with her, just I'm like on the other end. But when you know people who are not like the celebrities in their own right, right? And you're like, I know her. I know her. And not like, in an idol way, but it just gives me hope to know that I know this person. I've seen them in action. They are who they say they are, and they have not changed. Like in their character, like they are like still a Shayla, still loving on you, no matter who is next to her or who she's worked with. So I'm excited. So that's what I was telling her behind the scenes. Like, wow, I love that. I love that the character is still there, and I love that she still will stop for the one. So
Yeah.
I celebrate you on tonight, Ashayla. So we're gonna jump into our conversation tonight, right? And so I won't reveal my little thing until later on. But so you shared in the past that you were an educator, right?
Mhm.
You were gonna go do one thing and then you turned to another thing, but for over 20 years now, right? You have been helping people with their voices and with their performance, but now you've shifted
Mhm.
and you've added something a little bit extra. So let's talk about what was that transition like for you from just a vocal coach, if you want to call it that, to now let's monetize.
Yeah. So, for me, um, when I started my business and when I started really getting into this profession as an expert vocal health and pedagogy performance coach, it wasn't really because it was something that was passion of mine per se. it's something that I had to do out of necessity because at the time I was at college, University of Miami, and I was studying. I had of course, a vocal pedagogy degree, but I also had a music business and entertainment industry degree. And I really wanted to work for a record label, which I did. My first job coming out of college, University of Miami, I worked for a record label called Pandis Records in their marketing department. But I also had an amazing opportunity to tour. It was my first uh, real professional touring gig with a new artist that was signed to Universal. And during that time, in the interim of just those kind of gigs, I was teaching. And while I was teaching, I developed vocal nodules. I don't know if anyone knows what vocal nodules are, but vocal nodules are like little callus or bumps that grow on both sides of your vocal cords. And it kind of obstructs the way that you speak and the way that you sing. And so for me, I went into a state of depression because I could not speak or sing or use my voice the way that I wanted to. And I'd lost my voice for almost 2 weeks consistently and consecutively. And it was just a very dark time for me. And during that time, I didn't have a lot of money. I was still, a new student coming out of college, barely had health insurance. And because of that, I went to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and the ENT told me that I would need to probably have surgery if I did not rehabilitate my vocal folds naturally. And I didn't have that kind of money. So I went and took that degree that I learned all that vocal stuff with. Plus, I started to change my diet, and then I started to really do some research and ask more questions to speech pathologists and otolaryngologists, which are ear, nose, and throat doctors. And I documented my own healing journey uh, while I was healing myself from vocal nodules. And in documenting that, thank you, Lord, I was able to rehabilitate my own vocal cords without having to have surgery. But the word got around while I was on tour that I was like the vocal healer. And so I started working with a lot of artists that were touring and doing shows, making sure that they were vocally healthy. And that's really how I pivoted into the business world. I really was just helping myself. But sometimes you'll find that the greatest need that you have or the problem that you may have becomes the very same thing that you turn around and help people to do, right? And so fast forward 20 years later, I have now taken that documentation, turned it completely into curriculums and frameworks. My company is called Vocal Wall Street, where I definitely help high level and high performing speakers, singers, and voice driven creative professionals learn how to protect their voice, how to perfect their voice, and then turn it into a profitable asset where they can also monetize their voice. So it's been about 20 years in the making. Mhm.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you. I was just thinking how the way how you are so nurturing in your coaching, or because I got this clip, the clip that I have that I was promoting you with, like you, this was a well-known singer. Has a great voice, but on that day you were saying maybe you're tired on that day, and it was so nurturing to me. I was like, I could have chosen any other clip, but it was like you care so much about everything that you're saying. And I don't know. It was very nurturing that way because you're
Yeah.
also giving that confidence to her as a singer because she knows she has a great voice, but
Yes.
today it's tired.
Yes.
So, how do you really help these creatives, right? And these singers, speakers, how do you help them to build confidence? Because that to me is a confident builder. I was feeling so nurtured that it wasn't me. So, kind of
Yeah.
share, how do you help them to build like that confidence?
Yeah, I think it's really understanding number one, that God is the giver of the instrument, right? If you actually look at the shape of the voice box, the larynx, it's actually shaped just like the eye, just like the female reproductive organ, and just like the mouth, which lets us know that the vocal cords, or not just the vocal cords, but the actual larynx, the voice box itself, is was not by coincidence or created by coincidence. I believe that it's a gate. And so because of that, because it's a gate, um, our vocal folds or our voice box is an empath, right? So I'm getting somewhere with this. So when you saw me actually nurturing the singer, who is an amazing worship leader, but on that day she was very vocally tired, is because I understand how the nervous system is connected to the larynx, the voice box. And so your vocal cords and your vocal folds go through life with you, right? So for me, in the nurturing way, I have to make sure that when I am speaking, or I'm coaching or developing a speaker or a singer, I have to understand the neurological behaviors that happens, or the neurological things that happen inside of the mind of a voice driven professional, and how the nervous system is connected to the voice itself. So my job is to make sure that I don't trigger the nervous system, and that I actually speak to the nervous system, in which now the voice box and the larynx will now follow as the nervous system is. So that's the reason why I'm so nurturing that way, and why it helps so much in confidence. Because when people are dealing with performance anxiety or vocal anxiety or stage fright or nerves, their body goes into what we call a fight or flight mode, right? Which is that sympathetic mode. So the goal is to make sure that as the educator, that I switch the neurological way in which they see nerves, to go from the
Mhm.
sympathetic mode to the parasympathetic mode, which is like eating a warm bowl of soup, right? So my
Mhm.
voice, my approach, the way that I speak to, and I believe in firm compassion. So the way that I speak to my clients, speak to my students, speak to my mentees, I have to make sure that I don't trigger the fight or flight, but I move them into the parasympathetic mode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just the way how you even explain that, that is just smooth. And like because it's important. Education is so important. Knowledge, knowing this is why
Yeah.
this happens and this is how to protect this from happening. So it's amazing. So I was thinking, because when I first heard about pedagogy, right,
Yeah.
I hope I'm pronouncing it right, what is it for those who are gonna come on and they're gonna like, okay, what is that? She's speaking another language to me. Can you just explain
Yeah.
what that is?
Yeah, so pedagogy is a fancy term that just talks about the science or teaching the way in which to utilize a certain skill set. So there are different types of pedagogy, right? So when we say vocal pedagogy, it's really just teaching the methods of vocalizing correctly, right? Or learning the teaching methods of how to properly vocalize. That's vocal pedagogy. So lots of times you'll hear me say vocal pedagogy and technique essentials, right? Because not only am I teaching techniques, but I also teach the person themselves to be a learned singer, to be a skilled singer, and so that they themselves should be able to navigate their own voice even if I'm not around, right? So that's pretty much what pedagogy means.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for everyone who's joining in. I hope you are learning as much as I am, even though I kind of learned a little bit by watching Ashaala and doing her thing. But it's important that you who are watching learn and understand and go ahead and book your session so you could even learn even more, especially for you. It's not only for singers. That was one of the things
No.
that really stood out to me, because you when you first started talking about a lot of this, right, I remember you saying, I just think it was for singers, right? But
No.
no, it's for speakers. And you are shouting out to pastors and everyone who uses their vocal cords to do
Yeah.
anything, right? And so
Mhm.
that was something that I was like, wow, okay, so God wants us all to take good care of what we have. And and so that's just beautiful. um,
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about what woman in the Bible, right? Based on your path, your life over a period of time, the path that you're now on, is there a woman in the Bible that you can kind of
Whew.
resonate with?
I think I've always resonated with Esther.
Esther.
Um, yeah, I think I've always resonated with Esther, and I think I also resonate with Deborah, and I'll tell you
Mhm.
why.
Come
So
on.
Esther, because I found myself in very bold situations where I've always led. I've never really been the follower. And I've always found myself in situations where I am the mouthpiece, right, for others, the mouthpiece for creatives in the vocal world, the mouthpiece for creatives in the mental health space, right? The mouthpiece for creatives when it comes to business fundamentals and learning not how to lowball yourself, or learning how to be an actual legit business, even as a creative. So when I say Esther, I found myself always having to be that apostolic voice, even in the spirit world, right? Spiritual world as well. As a Christian, just the apostolic voice. And I know that Esther was called into a place where, she could have lost her life in many different ways, right? Connected herself to someone that wasn't even of her faith, right? But she was so obedient to what God was saying. So definitely I have connected a lot to Esther, but I also connect to Deborah, because Deborah was a woman of wisdom. She was a judge and she was very wise. And she always had to make these what we call sound judgments, right? And so for me, as a not only as a creative and as a CEO, but I'm a decision maker. Every single day, I have to lead my team. Every single day, I have to make decisions, not just for my for profit company, but also for my nonprofit organization. And so, because of that, I think I resonate with both ladies, right? The wisdom and making these decisions, sound judgment, and then also being that leader and being fearless as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And yes, Deborah was fearless. Esther stepped out in boldness. So for sure, because you've pretty much shifted. I have never heard anyone with your methods or just the revelation that you got. So God just uniquely handpicked you and gave you this gold mine. And that is why Vocal Wall Street is around, people. Come on, Vocal Wall Street, go and learn more about it, because you hear about Wall Street, but Vocal Wall Street, I was like, wow,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, can make
So
a lot of money using your voice in many ways.
yeah, wow, that's beautiful. All right, so I know there's a few things that people don't know about Patrice. But you know a little bit of a thing about Patrice. So I remember back in 2017, right? I was on the worship team at my church. I grew up very musical, and I was trying to get some confidence, right, to sing. And I found Ashaala, and she, at the time, she had her school, which she still does, but she's going to share a little bit where she is now. And I can say I'm a proud graduate of the Activate Voice. Okay, it's Vocal Activate program. All right, so I was working on my vocal health and my vocal pedagogy, right? And I went through, and let me tell you, she was giving me a lot of confidence. She's like, "Who told you you couldn't do this? Or you couldn't do that?" And stuff like that. And I believe I built so much confidence there, because my prayer was always, Lord, even if I don't sound like the best singer, I really want to be like anointed, but I also want to know how to breathe. And up to
Yeah.
today, I still do learn the breathing methods and all that, because I do still write my songs. You've encouraged me to continue in those paths. And so I still do it. And even now, as I'm talking, I'm like, I should be using my breathing and practicing before I come on here, because I'm also using my voice for more than 30 minutes. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Thank you for having such a program where it's not just about singing. It's about taking good care of your vocals, and having confidence in what God has given you. So thank you for that. So for those of you,
You're
yes,
welcome.
and you still have these programs going on. And so we're going to talk a little bit later how people can be a part and get the confidence that they need to present, right? So I want you to walk me through a day in your vocal pedagogy, or with just one client. Give me a day. Like, what does that look like for someone to book their session with you? Or I've seen you with different celebrities, different cultural backgrounds, and you are doing just an amazing job. So kind of walk me through a day in the life.
Yeah, so it really depends, right? When I'm working with, so at this point now in my career, I don't do. I now have a certification course for vocal coaches. So sometimes I refer vocal coaches out because I'm just one person. So obviously I can't cater to everyone. But when I am catering, let's say to a high level client, there is a process that they go through. So the first thing is they have to go through my team. All right. And then my team is the one that does all of the onboarding and the orientation with them. And then from there, they get the program that they enroll into. There's a checklist, and the checklist already lists all the expectations of what we're going to do. So, for example, I have a program called the VIP Voice Equity Program, and that program allows my client to get one-to-one exclusive voice strategy calls with me, in which we do a personalized and customized program for them in my 5 tiers of vocalizing framework. So my 5 tiers of vocalizing framework is where we go through with the voice professional, whether it's a speaker, a singer, podcaster, YouTuber, preacher, it doesn't matter. We will go through, number one, what it is like to, where are you right now with your vocal confidence, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how vocally confident are you? You'd be surprised how you have a lot of people, especially in church, who are very confident when they're in the pulpit, but if they have to do a book or an album or an audio book, or they have to do some or podcast, their confidence level shifts, right? Because they don't have that crutch of church anymore. And so we really talk about, who are you vocally? A lot of people don't know their vocal identity. And then I also walk them through the vocal health aspect, right? The management and the maintenance of the voice, teaching them about the apparatus from a physiological standpoint, letting them understand that stewardship is very important, because at the end of the day, your gift will make room for you. But if you don't know how to manage the gift that God has given to you, you will lose access to that room. And so we talk about the do's and don'ts, the myth busters, right? I walk them through what it would look like to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, what it would look like if they were dealing with any voice disorders, what are some of the things that may be affecting their voice, especially if they're dealing with vocal fatigue, right? And you'll be surprised how so many people are having quality issues with their voice due to non-performance reasons, right? So we talk about medication, diet, we talk about their mental and emotional wellness, right? We do a full diagnosis. And even now we're finding a lot of women in their 30s, late 30s, early 40s, and 50s. We now have to have the perimenopause talk, the menopause talk, the hormonal changes talk, because all these things affect the voice. And then we walk them through tier 3 of the framework. And tier 3 of the framework talks about the pedagogy and the technique essentials. So proper diction and phrasing techniques, breath management, right? For singers, ear training. We also talk about really learning left and right brain coordination. And then from there, we move into tier 4 of the framework, which is now stage, performance, and/or presentation mastery. And that's where we talk to them about learning how to hold a microphone properly. There's so many people out here that are just doing poor microphone etiquette, even as in big professional stages. And so because of that, we talk about just overcoming that nerves, making sure that they have proper audience engagement, they have proper eye contact, they're eliminating the ums and the ahs, and they're eliminating all of the things that will cause them not to communicate, whether they're singing or speaking to the audience that wants to hear them. And then, of course, we now talk about, you've learned about these 4 tiers. You know how you should use your voice. You've studied with us, whether it's through self-paced learning, guided group support, or one-to-one concierge services. And now, how are you monetizing your voice? Should you decide that you want to use your voice more, right, on a higher level? And so we definitely talk about ways and strategies and how to business the voice and treat it like an actual legit brand. So that's normally how we would walk them through our framework. It's our 5-tier framework called the 5 tiers to vocalizing.
Wow, that's amazing. And I learned just so much just now. One of the things that stood out to me was you're saying that a lot of singers don't have their identity. They don't know their voice identity, right? And I just thought of the fact that a lot of people, if they're not singing a gospel song or if they're not in a church setting, they will not use the voice. Like, not to say, you should go and full blown do all the other things, but they're like, oh, I could sing church, right? But
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's what you were referring to, but that's what came to my mind. Like,
Yeah.
even being in your environment and they're having like a Christmas party at work, do you jump in and start to sing, and they'll probably be impressed with your voice, that the fact that you have
Yeah.
such a beautiful voice. So, but that's good. I learned a little bit more. So it's like having that
Yeah.
confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. So I have and this is a free gift to everyone tonight. I want to give this to every all your listeners. I actually have a free assessment for you to find your vocal villain. Every one of you listening here, there is a vocal villain that is trying to stop and sabotage your voice. Okay. And so we talk about the five vocal villains. One could be the silencer, right? That could be the vocal enemy behind your voice, or maybe the muzzled muse, or the masked voice, or the hidden air, right? There's so many, there's five of them. And so it's very important for you all to know. So if you go to voicenemesisquiz.com, that's voice nemesis, nemesis quiz.com, you can actually take this free, it's like maybe 90 seconds of a quiz that will literally tell you your voice villain that's stopping you from identifying your true vocal archetype. And then from there, you have a free gift to actually go in and learn more inside of my community. You can learn more about your vocal villain. And then we actually do a reset with you, a vocal reset for 15 days, where you now will find your true vocal identity. And the reason I did that is because I've worked with novices, amateurs, all the way up to celebrities. And you'll be surprised that there's no difference in people not knowing truly who their voice villain is or their vocal identity. So even it doesn't matter who you are, speaker, singer, coach, educator, teacher, go and take it. It's voicenemesisquiz.com and now and try to unlock your true vocal identity. Okay? So that's my gift to your audience.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you for that. I definitely need to go and take this quiz as well. Wonderful, wonderful. You know, we're here at this point where I want to hear your moment of push, right? So I know you shared a little bit at the beginning about, pivoting and all that, but share your moment of purpose, unwavering, having that unwavering faith, allowing the supernatural hand of God to move, and just the humility that you have, knowing that all the other three areas are covered. So go ahead and share for me that moment or moments.
Yeah. So I took a bold step. So you asked me why I had a brick and mortar vocal health institute for 16 years. And so a few years ago, I would say almost maybe, I would say about 7 years ago, um, or more than that, I would say in my 30s, I would say I ended up having a mini stroke. I was overworked. I was seeing so many clients. I was talking about maybe 40, 50 clients in a matter of 4 days. And at that time, I was, yes, the money was looking good. I was already hitting the multiple six figures, but at what cost? Right. And here's the thing, everyone, I did not pay attention to the signs. And especially for us women, we don't pay attention to our bodies. So when we get those migraines and we get those sharp pains, lots of times, and I'm from the Caribbean, so lots of times we just say, oh, drink some tea, right? It's just gas, something like that. But you don't pay attention to those signs. And so I didn't pay attention to the signs. And one day I was sitting in my office and I ended up having a mini stroke, a TIA, right? And because of that, that really was the moment where I had to stop and say, what is it worth for me to continue the grind of this at the expense of my life? And so that's when I had to make the decision to take my intellectual property and all of the one-to-one stuff that I was doing face to face with clients. And I had to pivot from actual service, in-person service with so many clients into a couple things through digital and then also doing one to many. And that was very hard because lots of times people want you and people have gotten so accustomed to what you do that a lot of times people don't like change. But I had no choice but to pivot in that area. And it really pushed me because at the end of the day, it was a life or death situation for me. And it was also very, very hard because it was an unknown territory. I'd never done this before, and I knew that I was going to lose clients. I also had to raise my prices as a result of that, and I had to know that there was another level of audience that was out there waiting for me that would take what I had with the pivot that I did. And so if you saw Patrice's certificate, the actual logo on there was called the Music and Arts Healing Institute. But after I had my stroke, I pivoted, and that was very, very, I was very afraid to do that. But I pivoted my company into Vocal Wall Street, that now has online community and an app and one-to-many programs and high-level coaching programs and a licensing division. If I had never pushed to pivot because of a life threatening situation, I wouldn't have seen what God was doing on this end of a thing. And so I just want to say to someone here, your push may be to pivot right now. And pivoting for you may seem so frightening because you're afraid of what people may say. You're afraid of losing a client. You're afraid of going in another direction that divorces you from what you're accustomed to. But if God is saying to you over and over again the same thing, whatever God is repeating, and it can come through a still small voice, it can come through someone saying it to you, it can come through while you're reading something or watching something, pay attention and also listen to your body. All right. And I would say that's one of my push moments where I really had to push by faith to pivot, right? When God said pivoted, not only for my life, but also now to where I'm at today. And I'm so glad that I did it.
Yeah, that have me thinking a lot too, a lot about the one man show, doing everything yourself. Even being in the in ministry, I've seen that happen, and it's not a good place. It's not a good place to be. I've seen a lot of people just burn out and die, pretty much die of a stroke. And that reminds me, I think it was 2 nights ago. Yeah, we had Edith out of Texas. She also was having a stroke, and she did not know. She was just out shopping with her son, and she said she started just laughing. And even though she got home, if no one was there, she would have gone to sleep. And so she was sharing how she had a stroke, and
Yeah.
in the midst of that, she was supposed to be on a book tour. And
Yeah.
so in all of that, I am now, as you were speaking, I'm now also listen to your body, know when to say no to things. And because there's a tendency that sometimes we have, we play the superhero because we're the
Yeah.
ones who know, we're the expert, we're the professionals. And so
No.
what I saw in what you were sharing is your unwavering faith, saying, I'm going to raise my prices, and that might mean I won't have as much. I won't have as much of the clients, because maybe when it was a certain price, you had maybe 100, let's say, but you might just have 50 with the price raised, and you had to be okay with that. And so that's just encouraging to me to know that at some point the Lord he's speaking. He's always speaking, but are we listening, right? And so sometimes it takes something like that for him to say, hey,
Yeah.
slow down,
Yeah.
take a break.
Yeah.
And I am sure you're so happy with the decision that you've
Oh
made,
yeah.
because you are
Oh
everywhere.
yeah.
I saw her, I had the opportunity of seeing you. You had to come, you walked the red carpet, even though it was later after. And I saw you, I'm like, hi, Shayla. And she's like, I was telling her, I said, whoa, I was so happy to see her because I was doing on the media team there. And so I was just so happy to see her, and I was asking if you were receiving an award tonight or something. I think I asked, but the humility that Ashaala has, and I was saying to her behind the stage, like, wow, when people get to a certain level, working with certain celebrities and stuff, they don't remember people, but what I mean.
Mhm.
But she's like, no, that's not my character, and so I see it in
Mhm.
when you see her in person. I see it when, because she's a nurturer naturally, even in your coaching, you share your reels on your page. And so that's what you're going to get. The same person you're seeing tonight, go on her Instagram and see how she coaches, and that's really who she is. Before I ask you to encourage these women, I want to talk about something that's very dear to your heart, your nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
So your nonprofit started. I remember you were very vocal about. I think might have been a close friend of yours who passed away, took his life, and you became very vocal. And it was something that, in church, it's always this hush hush secret, right? Because there are so many pastors who also lost their sons to suicide, and nobody like is talking about it. And so you became very vocal. You became an advocate for creatives, for your people close to you, your strong friends, right? And
Mhm.
so was that the moment? Because I know you used to have these meetup nights where it
Mhm.
was worship, and I don't remember what you call them, but I used to like, how do I
Mhm.
go to one of those?
Yeah.
And but what kind of really started you to even
Mhm.
start the nonprofit, and where
Yeah.
is it today?
Yeah, so really what really so it's my organization is called Heart Check Inc. And we do two programs. So we do every 2 years we do a huge community event in South Florida. We rotate it between Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, and it's called Love Struck, a night of hope and healing. The next one we just did one for National Suicide Awareness Month in September 2025. So our next one will be May 2027. And I partner with mental health professionals that are also volunteer safe space counselors. We have over 100 volunteers that serve this nonprofit ministry. And we also partner with, I would say, gospel artists as kind of the doorway to invite the Black and Brown community, especially the Black and Brown Christian creative community, to actually learn more about just the effects of mental and emotional stressors, as well as suicide ideation. What really got me into it was when I did have my brick and mortar, I would have a lot of creatives come into my office. And before I can even do any vocal coaching, we had to do and sit down and talk about why were they high on cocaine and sleeping pills, why were they trying to take their lives by drinking a whole bottle of vodka, right? Why were they trying to slash their wrist? Why were they trying to drink a bottle of Clorox? Like, these were the conversations I were having in my office, to the point where I had to put anti-suicide pamphlets in my office. And many times I found that there was a correlation between mental and emotional health challenges and vocal health and vocal agility. And so because of that, that really was the catalyst of this nonprofit coming about. And then I had a personal encounter with mental health myself in my family. I do have some of my family members that deal with mental health challenges, such as anxiety, such as bipolar, schizophrenic, and multiple personality disorder. But also, too, I've have personal friends that have dealt with really high levels of anxiety to where it cripples them, it paralyzes them, and they're not able to function properly. As a matter of fact, most creatives deal with perfectly hidden depression and high functioning anxiety. And so when you see a person that's always on the go, or they're always, happy go lucky, or they're just always doing things and busy, that's high functioning anxiety that a lot of people don't know it's perfectly hidden depression. And then for me in 2020, I lost my father the day the country shut down. I lost my godmother, the legendary Betty Wright. 2 months after that, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. I lost two members from my nonprofit organization, and 7 friends died. And I myself dealt with PTSD due to grief and loss. And so, because of that, I had to take a break so I can get my mental wellness and my mental health in place. Because at the end of the day, I couldn't lead anyone without me first having to walk through the very same thing that God has given to me to lead people. And so that's why this initiative is so important to me. Because last but not least, I had a friend that you mentioned he served in church. Okay. He was a junior deacon. He was in the hospitality department and in the singles ministry. On that Wednesday night, he went to prayer service. He actually, as a junior deacon, took up the offering. He smiled. He greeted everyone at the door. And if you saw him, you would never think anything. He always had a smile on his face. The next day, he had a Bible in one hand, a gun in the other hand, and he literally took his life, shot himself in the head in front of his best friend. And the last statement he said was, "Not even God can get me through this." And so suicide does not have a look. Before a person even commits suicide, they've already gone through suicide ideation over long periods of time. And because of that, this is very important to me And this is why I have my Love Struck Night of Hope and Healing every 2 years. And then every other month, and I also invite you all to join us, we have our heart check-in pop-up virtual calls that we do over Zoom. And we have over 100 people at times joining those calls, where we actually bring topics, real topics on mental health, as well as the word, as well as worship and prayer. So I would, in a nutshell, and if you ever want to know more information about that, you can just visit www.heartcheckinc.org. That's heartcheckinc.org. HEARTCHECK Inc.org. And you can find out more information about the nonprofit.
Amazing. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot to take in, as far as everything that was done, because a Bible in one hand and a gun in the next. So check on your strong friends and on those friends who are just laughing, right? Check on everyone. I think we've become so used to people that we can't see the signs, right? Because they cover it so well. And so check on the youth, check on the men, check on everyone,
Yeah.
as we go through. And so I appreciate that you have this, and that you have built such a community around this. I still get all my emails. I'm in the group on Facebook. So I think one day I signed up to volunteer. They still call me every year. They still
Yes,
check on
I think
me.
they did call you.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
I think
did
they
call me,
did.
but I was in Massachusetts at the time. But yeah, oh
Yeah.
my
But
goodness.
we also have our virtual pop-in checkups too. So you can also volunteer too for
Yes,
things like that. Like we always
yes.
have those check-ins. Yeah,
All
virtually.
right. All right. All right. I'll do my due. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And for those of you who are watching, if you know anyone who's going through, suicidal ideations, or they've shared with you publicly, reach out. Reach out and see. Ashaala is connected with a lot of mental health professionals. So reach out. I think it's so important that we talk to people.
Yeah.
Earlier, I wanted to ask or mention it, if, because you know how there's some people, you probably work with some vocally, if they can't perform on a level. I think some people get depressed and they
Yeah.
go into those zones like, what am I going to do? My voice is everything. The only thing I know how to do is sing. And so I could see someone, even in that sense, going to that route because, this is all they got. So I don't know if I'm sure you've seen everything, right? But it's good that you have like organizations like that, or the Lord has entrusted you to steward something like that, to bring all these people together to educate them. Because I think sometimes we have the thought, and a thought comes because we're stressed or depressed about something, and there's no safe space to talk about it. Because in the church was never talking about this type of stuff. It is now that we've become vocal, different ones, that they're kind of like, wow, because it's happening to pastors' wives, right? There was I don't remember their name, but it's a very popular couple, pastor. They were separated. The pastor's wife had some kind of a breakdown or something. And they separated after how many years? Almost 50 years. I'm like, oh my God. And so she was sharing that she was going through some stuff
Yeah.
mentally.
Yeah.
So if this is a real thing. We have
Yeah.
to check. We have to. So I know you all came on here to hear about vocal pedagogy and how to monetize your voice, but because this is also dear to Ashaala's heart, I had to tap in there and see, because she's a true advocate for not only creative but for the body of Christ. We need to get healthy up here, right?
Yeah.
Let's get
Yeah.
healthy. All right, so I'm going to give you this opportunity just to encourage. It's Women's History Month, and a
Yeah.
lot of women see you and they're like, "Man, Shayla went from here to there to there. Like, how did she do it?" And so
Yeah.
there might be a woman looking. They want to transform their lives and
Yeah.
step in and be passionate about life and about all that
Yeah.
they're doing. So, would you just encourage that woman
Yeah.
tonight? Just let the Lord lead you and speak to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to speak to every sister, every woman, every mother, every godmother, sister, daughter, friend on here. All of us are born with purpose, right? But my question to you is, are you living with purpose, in purpose, on purpose? That makes a big difference in just getting up and just surviving every day. and getting up and actually thriving. You know, the word of God talks in John about how Jesus says that he would send the living water. We will have living water, right? Living water is the spirit of God that flows through us. And every single day, I want to encourage you to ask the living water to flow through you and lead you to a path where you know that not only are you getting up every day wanting, having that song in your heart, or wanting to write that book, or wanting to be able to do that stage play, or go back to school, or start that business, right? Or even start that ministry. I want you to know that if it's been in your heart, that means that it's a sign that God is trying to get your attention. And so as you live with purpose, do it in purpose. Doing it in purpose means that every day that you get up, even if you don't get paid to do it, the fact that you get up every single day and you do what you love to do and you're passionate about what you do, even if you never get a dime for it. That's the difference between your profession and your vocation. Your profession says that you're good at something, you can get paid to do it, but but your vocation says, and even if I never get a dime for it, I'll still do it. What is that thing? That's what I want you to tap into. That one thing that every single day it's on your mind. And it's like, God, and even if I never get a dime for it, I'll still feed those orphans. I'll still visit the sick. I'll still launch that program. I still will talk to the youth. I still want to encourage and empower women. What I still want to encourage and empower men, whatever that is, in purpose and then on purpose. On purpose means that you have to submit your will and your plan to the master's plan, so that when you get up every day with the purpose he's given to you, your reason for being, right? In purpose, that you know that every day I'm walking and I'm doing this thing that makes me fulfilled. And I'm doing it on purpose to make sure that when I show up in a room, hear me here. When I show up in a room, it is a disservice for someone to not know who I am and whose I am. A lot of us have been delaying showing up at tables, walking through doors, showing up in rooms because of imposter syndrome, because of the lie of the enemy thinking that you're not necessary and that you're not enough. But what it means to get up every day and live with purpose, in purpose, on purpose, it means that every day that you show up, someone needs to know who you are and whose you are. Whether that is you are spreading the gospel, whether that is you are solving a problem, whether if you are fulfilling a need, or whether you are empowering or encouraging or comforting someone. So I want to implore you, live with purpose, in purpose, on purpose, and watch how your entire life shifts. Watch how your entire life thrives, and then pass it along to someone else so that they can do the same thing too.
All right. Amen. Amen to that. I am also encouraged by those words. And so, I just give us one last tip, right? Maybe you could do a little practice on me. What is one vocal exercise that even before I come on the show that I need to do? Like, and how long before? Even though this is what you do, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to pull a fast one, but at least one thing that everyone should be doing before they start to speak, especially like if they have to go speak.
Yeah, I would definitely say you need to be hydrating throughout the day. So if you are, you should be drinking half your body weight in fluid ounces. So if you're just
Man.
drinking that one bit of water, it's not going to do anything for you because water does not touch your vocal cords, just to let you know.
And
All
okay,
right. So you have to be drinking at least a minimum of 2 liters a day.
two
All right. Or
liters.
half your body weight in fluid ounces so that your body can create that watery mucus and your voice
Hmm.
box can create that watery mucus that would allow your vocal cords to be hydrated. All right. I'll also say before you press record, before you go live, do some breathing exercises to get your stress levels and your cortisol levels down,
Mm-hmm.
because stress and cortisol actually affects not just the throat muscle, but the
Mm-hmm.
muscles around the vocal cords and the vocal cords itself. And then the
Okay.
last thing I would say is that you definitely need a warm up regimen. So, what
Yeah.
you can do is you can get a regular drinking straw, put it in
Mm-hmm.
that same bottle of water halfway, make sure the water's halfway, and you can speak your opening line or sing. Your ABCs through the
Mm-hmm.
straw. You're not going to puff your cheeks. You're going to actually see the bubbles in the water that
Mm-hmm.
creates what we call is what we call SOVT exercises. And that just means muscle relaxation
Mm,
exercises, semi-occluded vocal tract that you need to do every day. All right, especially 15 minutes before you get ready to get started. And that's
okay.
going to create pressure. That's called the supraglottal pressure that's above the vocal cords. Is going to meet what we call the pressure coming up from the lungs and the air called subglottal pressure. And then you
Hmm.
have that transglottal pressure that's going to relax those vocal cords, make sure they're not tense, and keep you vocally agile throughout your time so you don't get vocally fatigued. Okay, so those are my three tips for you: hydration, all
Hydration.
right, keep your stress levels down with breathing, all
Hmm.
right, and then
Breathing.
also doing a warm up regimen. And straw phonation is a great one to do. Okay.
All right. I am definitely going to get on that because I'm going to need it for the next 5 nights. It's amazing. This is so exciting for me. But yes, vocal health is important. So thank you. Thank you so much, Shayla, for being on here and for these important tips, right? And I know my voice is going to thank me for it and my body. So thank you so much. All right. It was so lovely to have you on here, Shayla.
Thank you for having
And
me.
we appreciate you for all that you're doing in all of your multifaceted self, right? Because you do several things, right? But we appreciate that you are stepping, as you say, living on purpose, right? And doing everything that God has entrusted for you to do. When he said in a Shayla here, she's like, I'm going to do it, Lord. And so we
Amen.
appreciate you and we celebrate you and we say, God bless you for all that you're doing. And so I
Amen.
know you mentioned you're more digital. So let
Yeah.
everyone know how they can connect, how they can book their sessions. For those who want to become coaches, share the whole
Yeah.
works and how we
Yeah,
can
so
also connect with
definitely
you.
you can follow me on all social media at Ashaala Shanae. My handle is right here on my tag, right here in red. So on Instagram, especially Ashaala Shanae. And once you go there, you'll be able to go on my bio and see all of the goodies that I have. You can actually do self-paced learning anywhere, any place, at any time, using my 5 tiers to vocalizing framework and my creative business framework. It's all in my Vocal Wall Street app. You can visit www.vocalwallstreet right here.com. I'm sorry, vocalwallstreetuniversity.com. And you can actually onboard. It's very simple. It's a membership, a community. You can stay active as long as you want to, and you can cancel at any time. And it's under literally $2 a day, so it's not too expensive or intimidating for that. Or if you decide that you would like to really get more exclusivity, I do have a 90-day program, and this is a group coaching program for high or mid to high level speakers and singers that want to learn about how to perfect their voice, how to profit from, how to protect their voice, and then the business side of how to perfect their voice and profit from their voice. And this is where we get on bi-weekly community coaching calls with myself and my team of coaches. And you can also join that too. And that is vocalblueprint.com/90day. That's vocalblueprint.com/90day. And then, of course, if you decide that you would like to get exclusive training with me, you can go on my any website and you can literally click on one-to-one training, and you would go through, or you can DM us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and my team will literally now direct you to how to get more exclusives with me. You have to go through a qualification process for that.
Wow, that's amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ashayla, for being our special guest here on the Push Talk Show during this Women's History Month celebration. We celebrate you, we honor you, and know that we are praying for you and that you're going to continue to do amazing things globally. So
Thank
thank you
you.
again. I appreciate you. And
Thank you for
everyone,
having
remember,
me.
you're welcome. Go ahead and follow Shayla and just go do what the Lord want you to do. Go and get the help that you need to go to the next level. All right. So thank you, Ashayla.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye bye. Man, what a beautiful session, guys. Wow. Sometimes you're on here and you think you're going to be here for this minute and then you just go, but it was so good. All this information that who knew that the voice that you could do so much, that you could perfect it, that you could take better care of it. But God, who has downloaded and given revelation to his daughter to go make everyone just better speakers, better singers, but they're doing it knowing that they're listening to their bodies and taking care of their voices. So I'm excited. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. For those of you who heard Ashaala's story, you know, whether it was stepping out on faith and doing what the Lord wanted her to do after everything that happened, or whether it's your mental state and you need to connect with someone, please do not wait. Take this leap today. Step out on faith and push. Push to better health, to better vocal cords, right? Healthy vocal cords. And just know that God is intentional about you. So until next time, which is tomorrow, night 5, we're going to have another amazing woman on here sharing her moment of push. And we're just going to celebrate her, knowing that God is using her to do great exploits in the earth. So until next time, God bless you. Stay covered with all the things that are happening in the world. You want to keep your mind right, because even now, more than ever, people are nervous because they're hearing so many different things. But just as Ashaala encouraged us today, let us look to the Lord. He is with us. He is with us. All right. So God bless you. And remember, it's all in the push. So until next time, it's Patrice Reed, your PR networker and your push coach. God bless you.